lot of blood. I mean, basically, it's all blood, it's all action. There's a lot of nudity, there's all that stuff. It's fantastic.
I developed this idea myself when I was running HBO miniseries, and it took. I mean, it was a 10-year journey. So I was always a huge fan of I, Claudius, and I wanted to find a way to do I, Claudius in a more expansive way. So I set out to find the right people to do it, and I got lucky. I did.
I've done a lot of films. But not big like Rome. That was the biggest.
How could you not enjoy playing such a magnificent character as Mark Antony? And not just playing him, but living in Rome for nearly 2.5 years. It was with just the greatest actors and good writers and great directors and wonderful sets. The whole thing it was like a dream. It was extraordinary.
Yeah, it was hard work. It's always hard work when you're filming because it's tough. It's a tough show, tough schedule, tough on you mentally because you're learning a lot of lines and all this kind of stuff. But to live in Rome for 2.5 years, you cannot get better than that. And it's one of the best experiences I've had as an actor.
Yeah, it was like, whoa, yeah. It took a while to come down from it and to, feel comfortable inside again.
That was the idea, is to see who would we be as individuals if we actually lived during that time, and what actually went on outside. When you open the doors to I, Claudius, what was happening in the street?
Research. And this man who worked for me, Augusto Grassi, over there, he's done a lot of Rome movies, and I knew him from working in Rome before, and so he started with me. We started research, we started hiring the crew. It was fabulous.
No, I did an awful lot of research for the show. You have to read all the old texts, Suetonius and Plutarch and Caesar's own journals and Cicero's journals, and then you get an idea of what kind of man he was.
There was a lot of character discussion, and before you did a scene, there was a lot more time than you generally get for TV to block a scene, just because they were so complicated. The sets were so big, you had costumes to think about, there were so many extras. It wasn't something you could just turn up and wing it,
My crew was totally Italian. I was the only American. At one point we had 45. The agers and the dyers and the dressmakers and the people who made the jewelry and the people who made the brass and the people who made all the leather, and it was big. I had almost 5 months. They let me go to India. I bought the chain mail for the soldiers in India. It was an extensive project that they let me have enough time for, amazingly.
And actually, a lot of people worried that British actors and Italian crews and American heads of department might not gel, but they ended up getting on like a house on fire and doing some great work. So it was the mix of those three cultures, I think, made something really, really good.
It was the largest standing set in the world at the time. So we were on the Cinecittà studios in Rome, and it was a 5-acre set. It was extraordinary. Yeah. At the time when they were living, obviously, it looked like this.
The Roman Empire, and at this point in history as well, when it was all breaking down and people were taking power, it was kind of the beginning of where the mafia potentially started. It was kind of Bruno's artistic idea, his creative impulse was that to show the underbelly of ancient Rome, of Rome as a city, and those gangs and those factions, and to kind of show where that whole thing started and where that whole kind of mafioso kind of gang-led thing started, and it started way back then in the Roman Empire.
I play Attia, and I'm the sort of leading woman in Roman society who's the niece of Caesar, and very manipulative, very kind of powerful, ambitious, and the mother of the future Caesar.
They're exactly the same. That's what I found fascinating, is the kind of passion and that kind of, that Italian thing has not diminished over the years, and it will always be that way, and thank God for it, because the Italians are the most beautiful, wonderful culture and people that you could meet. So I really think that they were the same then as they are now.
Very ambitious for her son. It was impossible for her to become Caesar, which I think is really the job she would have liked. But the next best thing was her son, and she did everything in her power, creating this monster.
They probably don't chop each other's heads off like they did then, but in essence, the passion that goes on is still there.
It was the best job I ever had.
I miss Rome very, very much. You know, the work was hard. I'd love to do. There's been rumours that there might be a movie, that they're cutting a deal for a movie version, one-off, because the set's still there. I would give anything to be back there. I think Rome taught all of us as people and actors what life's all about. Rome, there's something special about Rome and Italy.
I miss Rome. I went back there a couple of weeks ago just to get my injection of the place. Yeah.
It's hard, it's difficult to really live a project and then have to let it go. But it was such a wonderful experience. I think it was worth every minute.
I'd pop on the tunic at the beginning of the day and get out of it at the end of the day, and you know, that was that, and then we'd go and have dinner.